Hello,
Minus one.
everybody. Welcome to the Tom's Hardware Show. We are live. It is 3 p.m. Eastern Time right now. And this is the Tom's Hardware Show. So let's get it going. Yes, as always, we are live, which means we are taking questions from the viewers. So if you have anything to ask our guests today, please put your questions in the chat via Facebook or YouTube, and we'll be answering viewer questions by the end of the show. So let's meet our guests. First is a man who's basically Captain Ampere right now. He's been testing NVIDIA's new cards for the past couple weeks. I think he may have just woken up from a nap. Jared, how are you hanging in there?
Hey, that wasn't a nap. That was bedtime. I went to bed at 6:30 Pacific time, 30 minutes after pushing the 3090 live. So yeah, I got a few hours of sleep. That's good.
Awesome. And Jared's going to be talking about his findings later today, so stay tuned. We also have another very special guest this week. She's a streamer, a member of eSports team EQNX, and also a writer. Junae Benne, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing? As
Doing
you
good.
know, well as we can be in times of injustice and whatnot, but we're here.
Yes, things weighing heavy on our mind. That's why we got this show to loosen up a little, have some fun. So like I said, you're a member of the eSports team, EQNX. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so EQNX is the esports team I'm a part of. It's ran by Emily. She is an amazing person. She's an advocate for diversity, civil rights, and that's what makes it one of my favorite people to actually work with, because she just gets it. And she's like, yeah, you want to do something? Yeah, let's do this. It's filled with a whole bunch of wonderful other women as well, like more women of color, Black women, just all these amazing women, and also guys. There are a whole bunch of cool guys there too. And I've been on there for, boy, it's definitely been over 6 months, I think. And I really enjoy. I write for them as well. I introduce players to everybody, like, hey, what's everyone doing in the time of quarantine and things like that. The stream team is amazing, and we have a lot of fun together.
Very, very cool. And obviously streaming is huge right now and growing. People are getting famous, they're making money. Even famous people who already have money are getting into
right.
So one of the things I know you know about, obviously Twitch is the one that comes to mind when people talk about streaming platforms, but Twitch isn't the only platform out there where people are getting their clout. So Junae, I know you have a little rundown of some of the other platforms out there that people are making names for themselves on.
Yep. So there are a couple of platforms that I actually wrote about. Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Caffeine are just a couple of them. By no means are these the only platforms. These are just the ones that I have been through and have experienced in depth. A couple of ones that I recommend higher just because you get better quality would definitely be Facebook and YouTube. Within no time, you can have high quality videos. You can always share your high quality videos, and we know everyone in this day and age is a super visual creature. So having some high quality content, even if it's not as funny, but if you look like you have like some really like 4K video. I mean, like, I don't have 4K video, but like 1080p 4K video, it's very attractive. And just being able to stream that stuff and have fun and show people that you have fun and you put out great content is definitely one of the keys to performing well on any of these platforms or any other platform you choose to stream on.
So are people blowing up on like Facebook and YouTube as well? Or are people mostly getting, the big fame and the big followers off of Twitch?
People are blowing up on Facebook, YouTube, Caffeine, like everywhere. It's really everywhere. And I also would say that you have to measure the metrics from that platform as well, right? It kind of gets difficult, even though with Mixer being gone, people did try to compare like Mixer things to Twitch and being like, oh, which one's better. But to be honest, if you have 1 million on Twitch and you have 1 million on Mixer, you're still going to be able to make money. And so you're going to be able to make money or get brand deals and things of that nature. So people are definitely blowing up in their own perspectives and on their own platforms, but it can happen anywhere for sure.
What do you think about the streaming game lately, Jared? It's getting bigger. You've been gaming and looking at graphics cards for years, but now the streaming is taking off. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Like, I don't watch streaming very much. I watch YouTube videos and things, but if I want to do gaming, I'm playing my own game, and it's usually single player now. I don't have time for multiplayer. I got a family and wife and kids and life to live, so it's I do my single player stuff and do it on my own time. But I understand people like it. It's just not my thing, and that's all good. We can all do what we enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not everyone's going to be benchmarking graphics cards into the wee hours of the night. So we all got to find our passion. But I think that does bring up a good point, because somebody like Jared isn't going to be on Twitch, but he is going to be on YouTube. So if he comes across something interesting, he's more likely to find it there than logging onto Twitch randomly.
I've got a Twitch Prime account because of Amazon, but
I want to point out a comment from Erica, because I actually complimented Junae on this before we started. She brought back the thick gold chain. She's flying her gold chain right now for those who can't see, but she's rocking it well.
Hi, Erica. That's my friend. Hi. Yes, I love it. I love it. I've always loved New York too, and that's part of it. Like, I'm in Chicago. We definitely do our own thing. But my friend who was out in New York, after I was thinking about it, she got a chain, and I was like, I want one too. And like, now me and her have a chain, and like, I wear mine all the time. So yes, I love it.
Nice. I mean, so much of streaming is about, bringing your personality through, standing out. Do you have any advice for people, Junae, who want to break out? And also, is there any platform that's easier to break out with?
To break out, I definitely say be yourself. You see a lot of people doing a lot of things. Sometimes they're gimmicks, sometimes that's their personality, right? Like, there's this one girl who literally puts on her makeup before she streams, and people come for that. She puts on her makeup and then she streams. There are other people who like get in full cosplay and be like, I'm Batman today, I'm this, I'm that. And all that stuff is fine and dandy, but make sure it's you. Don't do it just to have a thing. Make sure that's actually something you want to do. Like, in the colder months, I have a spirit hood that I wear, and I love my spirit hood, right? And I'll have like onesies and stuff. And obviously that's not something I want to do year round because it gets hot AF.
Wait, hold on. What is a spirit hood?
Okay, so a spirit hood is a hat that is like your spirit animal, right? And mine is like the red fox. And so I have like a little red fox hat, but it's not real fur, but it looks like it. And every time you buy one, they like donate money to like somewhere. But yeah, so you can get like a wolf, I think you can get a panda. Yeah, you can get all types of things. So yeah, my spirit hood's coming up because it's getting cold.
Yeah, the rainy season just started out here in Washington. So I think it rained all yesterday.
Oh, that's not fun. But I heard that about Washington.
Yeah, put out the wildfires though, so that's okay.
That can help, definitely. Yeah, so standing out is definitely about like being yourself and doing things that you enjoy. Like, if you don't want to play AAA title games, don't play your indie games, because then you'll get a crowd from the indie game people, right? If you do collaborate with somebody and you play a AAA title, and then those people don't exactly understand your brand, they might not stay for long because they're going to be like, oh, I thought you were going to play like Ghost of Tsushima, and here you are playing there was this really cute indie game that I totally forgot the name. Here you are playing like Low Road or something like that. And they're just not going to understand who you are, and what you want is for people to fall in love with you. And so whatever you play, they're going to come, right? Like, so if you're playing Call of Duty and you get stuck in this rut of playing Call of Duty, and you're like, hey, you know what? I want to switch to Ori and the Blind Forest. And, if they love you for who you are, like you for who you are, they'll stay for Ori and the Blind Forest. But some people come just for Call of Duty in itself. And you have to know that and be okay with that. You're going to lose followers. Like, if people are like, I don't want to watch this, that's okay. For every one person who won't, there's two that will. Remember that. That's a Junae logic, though, right? Like, there's no statistic that says that. That's just how I operate.
The Junae logic sounds pretty solid to me.
Do what you love. That's how I ended up reviewing graphics cards.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a question from Jeg K, and I think it's a pretty good question. What if you suck, I'm guessing at video games, but you're funny? They suggest maybe I should try streaming. Not sure I'll have much of an audience as a 46-year-old. What do you think?
Is that my friend, Jag? Jag, I'm 46 too.
So you can have one viewer at least, right?
Right. And it's crazy because I'm not super great. I have my moments and I record them and I'll share them till no end. So you think I'm great, but when you come in, you realize I'm more funny than I am a better gamer. And being 46, like, so what? There's Skyrim grandma, you know what I mean? Like, and you don't have to wait till you're like 70, 90 to be like, I'm going to play video games. But if you play it, people will get into it. And if you're funny, then base your content around that, right? So then it doesn't matter what game you play. Your constant is that you're going to be funny and people are going to come for the jokes.
I've always thought, Jared, you're funny. You're 46. What's holding you back? Get in there, man.
I'm busy testing graphics cards. I ain't got no time to stream.
Well, speaking of, and by the way, if you have more questions for Junae, definitely keep them coming. She's getting it done in the streaming world, so keep the questions coming. But I do want to get to our next topic because it's about as close as most people are going to get to an RTX 3090 for a while. So, Jared, can you give us a rundown? You just finished your review. Tell us the deal. How's the RTX 3090 looking?
It's the new king of the graphics card world, right? Let's hold it up. You don't necessarily get it from just a picture, but it's massive. So that's a 3090.
Oh my goodness.
This is a 3080 for comparison.
Wow. And we thought the 3080 looked big.
I'm going to turn off my blur. Sorry, Nvidia broadcast. There you go. You can see all my stuff in the background. It's thicker. It's an inch bigger in every direction. Maybe is it an inch or a centimeter? Anyway, it's a monster card. It weighs 2.2 kilograms basically. So like 4.5 pounds. Legitimately, like it's scary to put this in some systems because you're like, is my board going to support this properly? Like the weight, is my case going to support it? My power supply test bed, not power supply, my graphics card power testing workstation is an open case. And there's a little riser card that you have to put on to capture the power going between the motherboard and the graphics card. So your graphics card sits this much higher than your motherboard. And it's kind of wobbly, like legit. It feels a little ghetto and trashy. Like it's expensive equipment. It's $500 or whatever to get this power testing equipment, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this this card feels like it's gonna break the thing and fall over. Normally you wouldn't run one of those, but I have to do these things for graphics card reviews. Anyway, speed is not like massively better than the 3080 depending on what you're doing. At 4K Ultra, the 3090 was about 10 to 15% faster. That actually kind of leaked early yesterday. Nvidia confirmed it, but that's the performance we saw. There are edge cases where you do get maybe a 20% performance uplift if you exceed your card's VRAM. So if you're doing 8K gaming, the 3080 only has 10 gigabytes and the 3090 has 24 gigabytes, and you could legitimately exceed the 10 gigabyte VRAM at 8K, maybe even 5K. And, maybe certain games with mods or whatever, you could get past 10 gig as well. If you exceed the frame buffer size of your graphics card, performance plummets. It'd be really hard to exceed a 24 gigabyte graphics card for gaming purposes. Professional workloads, that's a different story. You can find lots of things that use a ton of VRAM and compute and all that stuff. Professional workloads, the 3090, again, it was like 15 to 20% faster in a lot of cases. There were instances, though, where it's more like 30 to 40% faster. Blender was usually about 20 to 30% faster, depending on which rendering scene I was doing, than the 3080. So that's a pretty good performance uplift. And if you're talking about versus like a Titan RTX, that was a $2,500 graphics card for the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. And this is not a Titan. It's a GeForce, right? Which has that causes some changes. The price is lower, the performance is higher in most situations, and then you get to professional workloads like SpecView Perf. So that's an industry standard benchmark that there's like 9 components to it: CATIA, Siemens NX, Maya, 3D Studio Max, I think, is in there. I can't remember all the workloads, but what I do remember is CATIA was almost twice as fast on a Titan RTX, even though it's older and theoretically slower, because CATIA has some driver optimizations and things turned on in the Nvidia drivers for Titan cards. They're also turned on in a Quadro card. So Nvidia has this tier. So it's like GeForce is your gamers. It can run professional workloads, but it's not going to have the full drivers unlocked. Titan had some of the driver stuff unlocked for professional workloads, and then Quadro gets like all the ISVs, the independent software vendors. Anyway, all their special workloads that are optimized for professional GPUs, they're unlocked on a Quadro. Your GeForce cards typically top out at $700, and then you get like the 2080 Ti and the 3090 that push into the $1,000 to $1,500 range. Your Titan cards have been $1,000, and then you had like the $3,000 Titan V, and then the 2,500 Titan RTX. The Quadro cards are like, they make a Titan look affordable. The top Quadro cards are like $8,000. They're brutally expensive, but they're built for professionals who might be earning, 6-figure salaries, and so time is money, and they can afford it. So there's this debate, like, should this have been a Titan? And I don't know. Like, what do you think? Do you guys think it matters? I don't really think it does, just because it's,
I mean, at least in size, that's definitely a Titan of a card, no?
Like, all I hear is na 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 from Attack on Titan theme song. Like, that thing is huge.
It's like coming down.
Yeah, like,
all the
thing
people.
is huge. Like, do you know? Like, do you have any speculation of what people's like tower and things should look like? You were talking about it being flimsy, and if I was like, yeah, I want this $1,500 graphics card, how big does my tower actually have to be? Do I have to go in and put in reinforcements around it just so I can feel safe that like it's not going to be anything crazy?
No, and I mean, like, here's the mounting brackets. You can see this is the 3080. It's a 2-slot bracket. That's pretty typical. The Titan now I'm stuck on Titan. The 3090, the 3090 is a 3-slot cooler. So, like, I don't think anyone who's buying a $1,500 card is going to have a cheap, crappy case to put it in, right? But you definitely need like a mid-size ATX or larger case. Like, it's 12.5 inches long. So there are a lot of cases where it simply won't fit, because this will bump up against the drive bays or whatever, or fans, or if you've got a liquid cooler and a radiator at the front, it could hit that. So you want a bigger case. I've got my test bed is what is it? It's a Fantex Enthoo Pro M or something like that. I can't remember the exact model, but it's a big case, and I test big graphics cards, so I wanted something like that. The open test bed, you can't, I don't think, oh, there you can see it. That's without the Razer card back there. So just a regular card sitting in it. But, if you stick a Razer card in, it looks a little weird and sketchy, but people don't do that outside of like reviewers.
So we do have a question asking about the CTD affecting the other cards. Do you know anything about that, Jared?
What CTD? I'm drawing a blank on the acronym.
Yeah, me too.
We'll blame lack of sleep. Cost to, I don't know.
Yeah, Dave, if you want to ask that question again, we'll try to get that answer.
I'm assuming like he might be talking about like, because it's this new card, will it push the prices of existing cards or other cards down. You know, obviously the 3090 was always planned to be this Halo card that was super expensive. The 3080 is less than half the price, and that's like it's not mainstream, but it's the high-end extreme performance card that Nvidia is pushing. You'll get the 3070 next month for $500. 3070, I'm very curious to see how it performs because it's trimmed down quite a lot from the 3080. So I think there's going to be a big gap between those two, and maybe down the road you fill that with a 3070 Ti or something.
Oh, so CTD, crash to desktop.
Oh, the crash to desktop.
What about the crash to desktop affecting the other cards? Have you heard?
Oh, I think he's talking about the third-party cards. So let's see if I can pull my camera down. Ooh. Yeah, that's a lot of 30 series cards, isn't it? So you got the 2080 Founders Edition, 3080 Founders Edition, sorry, 3090 Founders Edition. This is the MSI GTX or RTX 3080 Gaming X Trio. So it's a 1.5 kilogram. It's also very large. Like it's right up there with it's not quite triple slot size, but it's similar length. It's got 3 8-pin power connectors, and it actually comes with a support bracket that goes along the top of the card when you mount it in the case, which is nice because it is a big heavy card. The Asus, I don't know. They've changed the way you're supposed to pronounce it over the years. This was a 3080. Performance and cooling were really good. I didn't have any problems with it. Going back to the MSI, initially I had Metro Exodus was like constantly crashing at stock settings, which it's factory overclocked. But the public driver seems to have fixed that. And there's also this question of like, are the crashes happening because of the cards themselves, or is it just the newness of the drivers and the hardware and everything? I test so many games in hardware, like I get routine crashes in a variety of games where it's like, I was testing The Division and it just locked up and crashed. Is that because I was changing settings? Is it because of something else? Is it the hardware? And so you don't necessarily know. I usually end up like, okay, kill the game, restart it. Okay, it worked, great. But I haven't noticed like anything consistent with crashing to desktop, but benchmarking's not playing a game for 5 hours straight, so you don't always get the full picture when you're testing. I didn't mention this one. This is Gigabyte's Eagle. This is a 3090 as well, which like after holding the Founders Edition, you can't tell in the video, but it's so much heavier. The Founders Edition is just like, I think this is probably 1.5 kilograms, and so that extra 0.7 kilos, it's big. Anyway,
that could be your streaming gimmick, Jared. You could start working out with your graphics card.
I know. I joked in the review. I'm like, future archaeologists are going to find this thing and be like, oh man, did they club each other to death with that?
So Junae, we were talking about you are thinking about getting a new computer soon. Do you go for the high-end stuff to help with your streaming, or do you find that that's not really necessary? You just kind of go with what you're comfortable with?
So I would like to go to high end if I were doing, like, I am doing high end things, but it doesn't really match up, right? Like, I think you have to put time into your craft and put like money into your craft and things like that. But because I don't have like 1 million followers on stream and things like that, I don't need $1 million PC. I do create videos, so I need a PC that creates videos, that streams, that plays all the games that I want to play, whether it's Hyperscape, Apex, Among Us, like whatever I want to play. Like I want it to run Photoshop in the background while I'm playing my Steam, while I'm playing this. And so I'm just going to end up going for something that works for me. And like my graphics card that I have right now is actually pretty okay. Actually, it's very interesting. I got it a couple of years ago, but it's my GTX 1060. I really enjoy that. I think I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. I really enjoy that. It's just amping up my processor So it's mostly like amping up my processor, making a smaller tower so it can be more convenient, because the chair that I have is a big boy chair. It's my Black Panther chair, by the way. You can see I love it. And it actually glows in the dark, the purple stripe. It glow in the dark. I just love it. I love it. Wakanda forever. And so
always.
yeah, I'm gonna go for something that's just able to do all of those things. Like, when we were talking about the 1500 graphics card, I can imagine someone who's doing like animation or who wants to stream run that, who has like, 4 to 6 monitor setup, a DSLR, a webcam of this, of that, streamed, like just piling on all these things that they're using at once. And I have 3 monitors, right? I have my mic, which has an audio interface, which does connect to my computer, my webcam, and things like that. So I'm not doing anything super strenuous, but I like right now I'm kind of satisfied with my computer because it does like the video editing and things that I need. It might take a longer time to render, but I'm not trying to go for like, I'm not trying to go for like I'm making a living off of my streaming type of PC. That's a whole different beast.
Hear that, Jared? She's satisfied with the 1060.
Hey, it's fine. Like, you can play a lot of great games on a 1060, and
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you can play any game out there right now.
Yeah.
You can't max out the quality, you can't run at 4K or whatever, but I mean, I'll be honest, I've got several 4K monitors. If you took them away and stuck me with a 1060 and a 1080p display and gave me all the time I needed to play games, I would still be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I grew up in the Commodore 64 era. I mean, that was my first gaming PC. It wasn't a PC, right? But so 64K should be enough for anybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've come so far, and you look at things from 5 years ago compared to today, we're definitely plateauing in a lot of stuff. That is kind of where the RTX 30 series is interesting to me, because it's pushing new levels of ray tracing hardware. It's potentially like up to twice as fast in ray tracing. You've got Cyberpunk 2077 coming out, and I updated our article there this past week because they announced the official specs. Hey, your 1066 gigabyte card meets the recommended specs. And then it's like, well, yeah, but that's for 1080p, high settings. We don't know if that's 30 frames per second, 40 frames per second, 60 frames per second. I want the ray tracing, man. Turn on the ray tracing, turn on all the bells and whistles, and let's see how it runs. And to do that, you're going to need like at least an RTX card, or maybe when AMD's big Navi comes out in October or November, whenever it launches, we'll see how that runs it. But I definitely like the technology, so I enjoy the faster cards. If you're doing content creation, you don't necessarily need a 3080 or a 3090 to do this. The GTX cards help as well, but there's a lot of acceleration built into some of the latest apps, like Adobe Premiere Pro for exporting videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did some testing of that, and it's like exporting Big Buck Bunny. It's the open source free video that everyone can use for demonstration purposes. It could export in about 120 seconds for a 10 or 15 minute clip. So that was because it was GPU accelerated encode using the Turing architecture. You could get slightly worse GPU assisted encoding on previous gen cards. You could you could do it on the CPU, and then the export takes like 4 times as long or something. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but there are use cases where your faster graphics cards actually make a big difference in professional apps as well. So as you get more proficient with content creation, or you do more content creation to the point where you're like, oh man, this is a bottleneck, there's a chance that a faster GPU does the trick there. And at some point you cross over to where it's like, hey, if this saves me 50 hours a year or 1,000 hours a year or whatever it is, because it's a faster GPU doing my rendering and coding tasks, you can easily justify spending a lot of money, which is where the Quadro cards end up coming from, because NVIDIA's like, hey, it's like we're replacing a month's salary for your employee, or we're giving your employee an extra month worth of productivity, so we'll charge you through the nose. Anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. It's all about opportunity cost, and I think because I write a little bit more in the games that I want to stream. Like when I first got my PC, I don't even think it had a graphics card. I think I paid $600. I paid $600 for it, and I was playing League, and I was very happy. And then games like Battlegrounds and like Overwatch came out, and I tried to play it. My computer was like, ha, 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 that was a good one.
Yep.
And so that's when I decided to like get more serious. But I agree, like, you know, you evolve with your needs, like just to make it easier.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, you start out. I had one of those clunker PCs back in the days, and it was good enough for what I was doing. And then I upgraded and upgraded some more, and then the internet happened, and we started reading about all this cool stuff with overclocking. So that was my hardware journey, and I ended up doing this for a living, which is a great thing to do for a hardware enthusiast.
Yeah.
Like I get to play with all the latest toys. That sounds awesome. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted, Sharon. She's permanently muted. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys
Yes.
can hear me now?
With an echo.
Am I echoing?
Just a little bit.
All right. Well, I'm going to end it real quick. The reason I have this echo is, I wonder if I could fix it. Now, is there an echo?
Less.
All right. Well, gosh, that's terrible. Here. We're going to get rid of that.
It's your spacious cavern behind you, just echoing.
Well, sorry about that. Well, we still have Junae here. We got Jared here. So if you have your questions, keep them coming.
Yeah.
And yes, throw your questions at them. And right now, I want to show you guys something that I just got. Razer announced some new stuff this week, and I have one of them to show you. They announced a whole bunch of new wireless peripherals, but what I actually have is their keyboard, which is the Black Widow V3 Pro. It is wireless. It's filled with RGB right now, as you can see. So this is a full-size wireless mechanical keyboard. The biggest rival is Logitech's G915 Lightspeed, which is low profile. So those are easier to take around with you. So this is like 3 pounds-ish. It's full size, but it's wireless, so you can use a dongle. Razer's Hyperspeed, they call it, a dongle connection, or Bluetooth. You can actually connect to 3 different PCs with a Bluetooth connection, which is great for multiple PCs, but also this is pretty heavy and thick to be traveling around, but still handy. They did
What's battery life like on it?
Good question. So I've been testing it with the dongle so far. So Bluetooth might give me better results. My biggest issue is that when it gets to like 3%, it starts acting funny, right? So like the RGB starts acting erratically changing. It takes like a second delay to like get my register my key presses. So our review will be up shortly, so you can see that. But I've been getting like 2 work days pretty much with RGB at like max blast though, like eating the battery as much as it can. So that is one area where, that might be an area worthy of growth. The difference with the Logitech Lightspeed is it'll automatically dim your RGB when you haven't touched it in a couple minutes. This one you can have that, but you can turn that off. So I just had it at max brightness the whole time. So there are, so let me just show you this again. So one of the things it has, you get the double shot ABS keycaps, which yours is upside down. Oh no, it's not. ABS double shot keycaps, which if you know anything about keycaps, PBT is better quality. They have like a nice texture to them that makes them great to type on. You won't like slip, and it fights fingerprint smudges. This is cheaper than that, but it's still one of the best ABS keycaps I've found. It's pretty close to PBT, and it just feels awesome. You get like the media buttons that are really popular with Razer. This is the same one on the Huntsman Elite, which is a really popular keyboard. It presses in, it's programmable, all that cool stuff. So let's play a quick game of how much do you think this keyboard is?
It's a Razer 250.
What do you think, Junae?
I was gonna say 150. I guess I was being generous.
Jared's the closest, but he did go over.
Oh, I went over. That's actually good.
Yeah, they're charging $230 for this, which is still so much money. I a $1,500 graphics card, 200 almost $50 keyboards. I got to get to
Hey,
streaming.
if you're buying that $1,500 graphics card, don't forget your $3,000 plus 8K TV.
I need it all.
I know. I'm trying to get Tom's Hardware to expense that for me. Like, hey, I need to buy an LG 8K just for testing. It's for science, man.
I found 2 questions in the chat.
Yeah.
One of them says, Avram, hi. So does getting over 60 FPS matter when Twitch is primarily limited to 60? It does matter. And it matters because you're not only going to be on Twitch showcasing your things. You're going to share this on Twitter. You're going to share this on Facebook. You might even share it on YouTube. You might even share it on Instagram and even Pinterest. Pinterest is like coming up with people sharing their gaming clips, and you always want it to look your best. So if you can run 60, you should run 60. If you can't, I would not break your bank trying to do so. And then we have another one. How do you try out for esports guilds? Do they do tryouts or is it just a word of mouth? So for esports guilds, there's a whole bunch of ranges, right? There is like high school stuff, collegiate, and then professional. And because I'm not an actual player, I do more of the writing. And even if you are a player, actually, you want to put together a sponsor deck. You want to have your stats. You want to have a sponsor deck, and you want to know the morals and values of whoever you are going after. You want to do your research, and you want to end up talking to them. Not everything was like, man, it's a good thing I'm blanking because they don't exist anymore. But not everything is like a super professional esports team where you have to go through 6 to 8 people to get an answer or to get someone to notice you. Some of them are very much still close to the chest. So you can usually reach out to the founder or the head of that organization and tell them, you know, hey, this is what I bring. Maybe I'm really good at marketing. Maybe I'm really good at PR. Maybe I'm really good at writing. Or, you know, I'm a professional competitor and this is what I want to do. As far as high school, because high school esports is super important because then it gets kids into esports and gaming from an early age. Even if they don't grow up to be professionals, they can do other things like player management, strategy, and things like that. Sometimes at this point, high school should be working on everyone either having an esports team or at least having a like computer lab that promotes esports, that has a couple games that they can go and play. And that I think the kids can either form their own team, or if there's already a team formed by like an organization or the school, they can go ahead and join. And sometimes they have tryouts, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of schools are taking everybody because you can teach someone how to play the game, but you can't teach passion. And that's something that, you know, is said about like every profession. Like you could always teach somebody how to do it, but you can't teach passion. So that's how you do that. For more professional, you would get your pitch deck, and you would also have like your stats. Like if you've already started competing or showing them like, hey, I can win this stuff, you have to make sure you're bringing something to them as well. You can't just walk up and be like, I need something from you. So
Nice. I like that. You can't teach passion.
Yeah.
I don't think you could teach someone to love graphics cards the way Jared does.
I don't think so either.
It's 40 years of growth.
So I want to help out Minor, who looks like a cat. They need a new keyboard. So I keep telling you about the Black Widow V3 Pro because Jared, I do have an answer for you. At least Razer's answer to battery life. If you don't use the RGB, so if you have a sad life, you can get up to 192 hours. This is what Razer claims. And if you have the spectrum cycling, which is when it's all one color and then it goes to orange, then yellow, then green, they're telling you can get up to 25 hours or 13 hours if you have it at max brightness. So yeah, that's kind of like what I said, 13 hours. That's like about two work days. So I'd like it to
Does it go to sleep automatically? Like if you walk away from your PC for an hour, is it still going to be glowing, or does it eventually go, okay?
You can set it to go to sleep. I had it on because I want my room glowing and obnoxious and bright and colorful day and night. But yeah, there are definitely some software tricks to help battery last longer. That is one thing I'll say about this keyboard. It is a little software dependent. Like if you want to change the RGB theme. You have to have Razer Synapse software. You have to have it open and you have to have it downloaded. So it's eating up your RAM. It's not eating up your storage, but it's taking up an amount of storage. And when you move from computer to computer, that's sad too, because you want all your colors all the way you want, the way you programmed them to be. So I'm just taking a look to see if we have any questions.
No one's got questions on the 3090 apparently.
Yeah,
probably because they can't buy it.
Get it. I did see one viewer said they got an MSI card at Newegg this morning. So congratulations to that person. Jared, I think you've been sleeping for a lot of today, but was there as many issues with launch as there was with the 3080?
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Like if you're talking about these chips, the 3080 and the 3090 both use the same GA102 graphics chip, the GPU. That's your, I don't know if that's graphics ampere or what the G stands for, but the GA is for ampere, 102 is the model number. The lower the number, the bigger the chip. So the 100 chip is in your Nvidia A100 supercomputer stuff that, basically they're $15,000 plus cards that are meant for gigantic supercomputers. The A102 goes into the 3080 and the 3090. And the thing is it's still a big chip. It's 628 millimeters squared. And I don't want to bore Junae, but I like this stuff. That's a big chip. Like the biggest chip you can make is like 800 millimeters squared, 850 millimeters squared. And as you get bigger, you're cutting them out of a wafer that's 300 millimeters in diameter. So you can imagine cutting out squares this big, you'd get a lot less of them than if they're like a dime-sized piece. That affects your yields, meaning how many chips you can get per wafer. And so what you end up with is the bigger the chip, the lower the yields. And then you do things like chip harvesting, where you say, hey, we've made this chip so that we can deactivate parts of it in order to get a functional chip. That's why the 3080 has 68 streaming multiprocessors and the 3090 has 82. There's an 84 SM maximum. Almost all of them are enabled on the 3090. They turn off one memory channel. They turn off two memory channels, so it's a 320-bit, and they also turn off 16, is that right? 16 SMs, something like that. Whatever, 68, no. Yeah, 16. 84 minus 16 equals 68. I can do math in my head. So they disable, that's like 18% of the chip that they disable, because now they've got a lot more functional chips. So what that means is, say Samsung makes 1 million chips for Nvidia, probably only 5%, 10%, some small number are going to actually work as a 3090. And then a whole bunch of them will work as a 3080. And there's still going to be a chunk that can't even work as a 3080. So down the road, we'll get like either a 3070 that uses GA102 instead of the 37 is supposed to use GA104. We've seen this with every recent GPU or graphics platform from Nvidia. So like Pascal and Turing, you had GPUs that were initially using one smaller chip, and then all of a sudden down the road, it's like, hey, there's this other version of it that uses the bigger chip, but it's trimmed down to the same number of SMs to get basically the same performance, though there's sometimes differences. We saw that with some of the 2060 cards that used the bigger chip. Anyway, that means that there were inherently far less 3090 cards even produced before this launch. And even though they're twice as expensive, like the demand for ampere was super high. And I was told by Nvidia that they basically planned on Turing numbers of sales for the launch. And so they looked back at 2018 and they said, how many graphics cards did we ship and how many should we have to hit the launch? And the reality was they really underestimated. And I think part of that is, like, let's be honest, Turing was ray tracing version 1.0. People were unconvinced. People are still unconvinced about ray tracing. Performance was still a decent step up from your GTX 10 series. But if you had a 1080 or 1080 Ti or even a 1070, Turing wasn't like this required upgrade. You went, it's 30% faster. That's nice. Now you get ampere and you're like, okay, from a Turing or from a Pascal card, you're now doubling performance or more in a lot of cases. So someone who's on a 1080 Ti is going, all right, this is awesome. I can go out and buy the 3080 and double my performance, and it costs $700, whereas the 2080 Ti cost $1,200 and was only 30% faster, or 40% faster, or whatever the actual number is. So that drove demand. And then there's just less 3090 cards going around. So, Nvidia apologized yesterday for not having enough 3090 cards ready for the launch, basically. So they knew this was going to happen. How much of it was due to bots this time versus just people buying, like, it's still tough to tell whether something is purchased by a bot or a human, but I suspect there were bots buying up these cards as well. The 3070 launch is coming next month. Obviously, Nvidia at this point knows demand is super high, so hopefully they have more 3070 cards produced and ready for launch. It will still sell out.
Man, I thought I wanted to start streaming and make some money, but I need to make some graphics cards.
Yeah, get those graphics cards in advance, scalp them on eBay. There you go. I can just put these up on. No, I can't do that. That's totally against reviewer code of conduct, and we don't do that here at Tom's Hardware. But yeah, I'm sure people are selling their 3080 and 3090 cards for a decent markup and saying, I'll just go back and buy one 3 months from now.
Jared, one quick question I saw a viewer ask. Did you test SLI on the 3090?
I did not. I do have two 3090 cards. I've got the Gigabyte 3090 and the Founders Edition 3090. So you can see those two cards here. One of the things is I don't have the SLI NVLink adapter. Oh, let me turn off my blur again. Sorry, broadcast. So I don't have the NVLink adapter that's required for, it's new, which kind of sucks because I have a Turing NVLink, but I don't have one for Ampere. But the problem is, see these cards? That's roughly with the slots at the same height. These aren't even at the same height. So you would need two identical cards to even try and do SLI. So I couldn't test it. Honestly, I looked at SLI testing on the 2080 Ti a while ago. I don't even think I published a story about it. But if you're playing one of the select games that supports it, that's great. But during the past year of the AAA major game launches, I'm not sure if more than one or two supported SLI.
Yeah, that's what RS is saying.
Yeah, so it's
like 12 games support it. But that's also over $3,000 in graphics cards to get
$3,000 plus $100 NVLink. Yeah, so where's my NVLink? I've got two NVLink chip adapters for Turing, and neither one will work with Ampere. I'm like, thanks, NVIDIA. That was really great. I'm glad we have a slightly different connector this time.
That's really crazy. That kind of, because I'm not as deep into this as Jared, right?
Well, who is?
NVIDIA might not be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jared's like, no, I'm in this.
It's the best.
So that
Jensen likes these things more than I do, I think.
That reminds me of when I found out that, trying to buy like new processors and things like that they might not, something about like the ports and stuff might not really be supported a couple of years from now. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy like, this $500, $700 processor, and then be like, oh crap, wait, now I need like an X amount of money on like the motherboard or power supply so it can like fit everything. And it ends up getting pricey. Like when you get one piece of equipment, like you said, you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm going to go big on this one thing and then I'm going to go small on it. Like once you decide to go $1,500 big, there's no coming back down and being like, oh, well, I'll just get this. That's like $98 and I'll just get this.
Yeah.
It's like you have to keep that same energy for all of the parts.
It snowballs.
That's the only scary thing about it.
Yeah, it's like if you're buying a 3090, I mean, like if you don't have an existing PC and you wanted to build one from scratch, I'm like, look, you don't buy a top of the line extreme GPU and then buy like the $100 power supply that might not actually deliver the necessary power. It's like, no. So you go out and you buy the platinum power supply that costs $200, and then you don't buy the $120 $120, $130 motherboard. It's like, there's no way if I'm buying a $150 graphics card that I'm going to skimp on the motherboard. I'm going to get at least something in the $200, $250, maybe even $300 range, just because you want to make sure that it's got the power delivery and all the other bells and whistles. And then you're like, oh, now I need the CPU to go with it. So you're looking at, an i9 10900K or 10850K, or maybe you go AMD. I didn't do CPU scaling testing on the 3090 yet. We've got the 3080 results, and it's going to be similar, except that the 3090 will be even a little bit more CPU limited. So you end up with the snowball effect, and it's like, oh yeah, I bought the $1,500 graphics card, and then I had to spend $3,000 on the PC to keep up with it. You could do it for less, but do you really want to? And the good news is if you go extreme on your hardware, like I know people who they built a top of the line $3,000 PC 5 years ago, and they're like, actually, it still works pretty well, and I'm only a graphics card upgrade away from being pretty much back near the top of the stack. So it's like if you had 5 years ago would have been your Haswell chips, Devil's Canyon, and Broadwell E just came out 5 years ago. That was their high-end desktop. And it's like, if you've still got a Broadwell E system kicking around, you might have 8, 6, or 10 core CPU, which is totally enough for modern games. You'll lose a little bit of performance here and there, but if you're running a 3080 or 3090 at 4K Ultra, I would wager a 5-year-old Haswell E or Broadwell E chip is still going to be within 5% of your 10900K. So there's that aspect of like, just go high end and it will last you longer.
If there's anything I've learned from today's episode is that I am poor. I feel so poor right now.
You gotta ask Future for a raise.
Yeah.
Well,
Zilla, can I have a raise? I stayed up all night working on the 3090 review.
Well, that's you, Jared.
Oh, sorry. I want a raise too. Like, raises for everyone. We're giving Junae a raise too.
Let's do it. We all need some money. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it looks like we have gotten through all of our questions, I believe. So thank you everyone who sent in questions. We love answering questions and hearing what you guys think. That is about all the time we have for today, but we'll be back next Thursday and every Thursday. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook so you don't miss any of the fun. Of course, if you do miss the fun, our replays are always waiting for you, so don't worry. And you can also download each episode as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So I want to thank Jared for fitting us into his hectic schedule during the 3090 launch. So thank
Going
you,
back
Jared.
to sleep now. No.
You may. We won't know. Camera's going off. And finally, a big thanks to our special guest, Junae Benne. Before we go, Junae, can you tell the viewers where they can go to keep up with your streaming, your esports team? And I also hear you have a book.
Oh, yeah. So you can always Google my name if you remember how to spell it, Junae Benne. Usually my alias is Natural Hair Gamer. So if you type that in, you'll be able to find me. EQNX Gaming is where you can find my team. That's also what it is on Twitch. I am the same everywhere. So if you're looking for me on Twitch, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those places. I also have a link tree in my bio. I did write a book because everything that I did to get into video game journalism, I winged it. And I wanted to give other people the opportunity to succeed without having to do everything trial and error. It's called How to Become a Successful Video Game Journalist. And you can also find that on my Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. And it gives you a guide on how to build relationships with devs, how to obtain gaming codes, and how to review those games when we're talking about graphics, music, replayability, scaling, like, what do you rate it and things like that. It also shows you how to do awesome things like apply for press passes and things like that. No one told me those things when I was entering into the gaming industry. And I just want to share all of my knowledge and all of my methods that have worked successfully for me.
Awesome. And Jared's just showing off his cards real quick. We could get one last.
I'm checking out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Junae. Thanks so much to Jared / a group of graphics cards. That is our show.